Many thanks for your time here on News Today. Let's start off with some politics. And the ruling National Democratic Congress has held on to the Amenfi West constituency seat in the Western region, beating the opposition New Patriotic Party NPP by over 2,000 votes. Now, certified Electoral Commission results from all 102 polling stations put the NDC candidate Eric Afo ahead with 15,809 votes, representing 52.64%, while his main contender, the NPP's Paul Dechi, obtained 13,076 votes, representing 43.54%. Abraham Kojo of the Progressive People's Party and United Front Party's Elvis Ejay polled 1,032 and 113 votes, respectively. Voter turnout was 49% of the total 62,364 registered voters in the constituency. Malik Abbas Dabo of our political desk has been analyzing the by-elections outcome.
It was a tall order for any other party to win other than the NDC, because this constituency was created in 1992. It's one of the oldest constituencies. It was later that Amenfi Central was carved out of the Amenfi West constituency. It had always been an NDC seat. It was an NDC seat until 2003, when the MP at the time, I think David Asante, he resigned from Parliament. When he resigned, it became necessary for a by-election. And in that by-election, remember, the MPP was in power at the time. So Agnes Somfo won it for the MPP in that by-election. But the very next year, after that by-election, the 2004 elections, the seat went back to NDC. This man who died, John Jetia, he was the NDC's candidate in 2004. And he won back the seat for the MPP. And he retained it until he died in October this year. That necessitated yesterday's by-election. You have to expect these things to happen. In politics, it is practical reality, and the practical reality is that the NDC wants, the NDC didn't want to leave anything to chance. And it's not just about winning. The NDC was certain it would win, but it didn't just want to win. It wanted to win probably by a bigger margin. If it won by a bigger margin, it would point to that and say this is a clear testament to the fact that the people still have confidence in the government and in the president's ability to deliver services, goods and services to the people, and development projects to the people. This is an example of it. The people have voted for us by even a bigger margin. If it lost some vote, it would have ceded some bragging rights to the MPP, because so it didn't want to lose any votes in this election. Remember, in the 2012 elections, the MP who died, John Jetia, had 26,000 plus votes. That was how much he won. This Paul Dechi, who is the MPP's candidate in yesterday's by-election, was also the MPP's candidate in 2012. He had 16,000. Now, the NDC didn't want to lose any votes. It didn't want to appear to concede any votes to the MPP, because if it did that, it would have ceded the bragging rights to the MPP. Unfortunately, no. Probably because the turnout was exceptionally low. It was actually less than 50%. But I think that the NDC should be worried, because if you look at the fall in the number of votes of its candidate, the person who died had 26,000. This guy who won yesterday, that's Eric Afo, he had 15,000. That's a loss of 11,000 votes. That is massive.
Quite significant.
Quite significant. 11,000 vote loss is massive. The MPP's candidate, he had 16,000. He had 13,000. He lost 3,000. That's quite significant as well. But compared to Eric Afo's loss, that's for the NDC, losing 11,000 in one constituency is certainly a big deal. And I think that the NDC strategists will be looking at this and asking the questions, in spite of all of the things that you pointed out, the road constructions in the middle of the night, the bringing the by-election close to his barrel, or bringing the barrel close to the by-election in order to obtain some sentimental support and all of that. In spite of all of these, if the party still lost as many as 11,000 votes compared to the opposition's loss of 3,000, that should worry the NDC.
Now, the minority leader in Parliament, Oseche Mensah-Bonsu, is questioning the allocation of 3.6 million cedis for the rebranding of 115 buses for the Metro Mass Transport Service. Now, speaking on the floor of Parliament, Mr. Mensah-Bonsu questioned government's priorities, especially when key sectors of the economy are underfunded.
information that I have is that you have made provision to spend, the ministry has made provision to spend 3,649,000 of ABFA to rebrand the 116 buses that are parked here at the premises of Parliament. Mr. Speaker, the rebranding is the pictures that have been embossed on these buses. Mr. Speaker, it translates to about 31,000. What we are seeing there, 31,000 Ghana cedis on one bus. 31,000 Ghana cedis for the rebranding of just one bus. 310 million on the rebranding of one bus. Mr. Speaker, that cannot be tolerated.
Meanwhile, the Transport Minister, Jifa Ativo, is warning her ministry will not be able to achieve targets for 2016 due to cuts in its budgetary allocation. Now, its 2016 budget is 126.3 million cedis, even though the ministry asked for 600 million Ghana cedis. Now, moving the motion for the approval of the ministry's estimates, Jifa Ativo said her outfit will struggle to implement plans and projects next year.
To draw the attention of the House to the fact that this allocation, as against the planned budget of 688,759,724 Ghana cedis, is woefully inadequate to meet the developmental needs of the sector in 2016. The allocated amount is 65% less than the 2015 approved budget of 361,652,706 Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, the most affected is the development of the railway network, for which works are ongoing for the Takoradi to Secondary commuter rail line. The provision of 10 million from ABFA cannot meet the completion cost of the project scheduled for next year. Also, for the ministry and its subvented agencies, no provision has been made for assets, which means no equipment or capital assets could be acquired for next year. Mr. Speaker, I would therefore be grateful if this August House will request the Minister of Finance to improve our budget allocation for 2016.
We can now go over to Parliament, where we are told that members of the House are currently debating the country's 40-year development plan. My colleague Elton Brobe is live there and joins me over the telephone now with details of that particular one. So, Elton, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. What exactly have members of the House been saying about the country's 40-year development plan?
Well, basically, it's about the approval of the budgetary estimates for the National Development Planning Commission, and the Deputy Finance Minister, who is requesting Parliament to approve an amount of 4.9 million Ghana cedis for the services of the National Development Planning Commission to cover their operations for 2015, told Parliament that among some of the activities the NDPC will engage itself in 2016, they will continue with the stakeholder consultation on the long-term national development plan in order to prepare the national long-term development policy framework. That's the 40-year development plan. And also, they are also engaged in the preparation of the 2015 National APR on the implementation of the Ghana Shared Growth and Development Agenda Phase 2. And they are also involved in the preparation and dissemination of the planning and monitoring and evaluation guidelines for districts and sectors to enhance their capacity in planning functions and coordinate the implementation of sector and district plans. Now, this is what the National Development Planning Commission will be doing this year. However, members of Parliament are not excited about the allocation given the NDPC in the 2016 budget. The information I've taken is that the committee, the NDPC, wrote to the Finance Minister requesting an amount of 13.8 million Ghana cedis for its activities in 2016. Now, out of this figure, they have only been granted 4.9 million Ghana cedis. And and they are of the view that the 30 million is what will be adequate for them to fully implement their plan for 2016. Now, they are saying that due to the insufficient budgetary allocation over the years, NDPC has been relying on the benevolence of development partners to fund most of its operations. Furthermore, the insufficient budgetary allocation has led the Commission to face the challenges of inadequate logistics, limited office space, overage vehicles with frequent breakdown, resulting in a high cost of maintenance and inability to recruit adequate technical staff. Now, in spite of these challenges facing the NDPC, the finance minister in the 2016 budget only granted aid 4.9 million Ghana cedis.
Many thanks for that particular update. That was Elton Brobe joining us live from Parliament there. And away from Parliament, we can move on and do some other stories. And the former research coordinator of the United Nations Institute for Social Development, Dr. Yusuf Bangura, is calling for state financing of the operations and activities of political parties in Africa to make them more inclined to the developmental needs of citizens. Now, he says the lack of incentives for political parties over the years has deepened inequalities and gaps in democratic governance in Africa. Now, speaking at the 15th anniversary lecture of the Institute of Democratic Governance, IDEG, in Accra, Dr. Bangura says it is about time political parties are made to be more responsive and accountable to the needs of the citizens.
Africa has the second highest level of inequality and the highest poverty rate in the world. This astonishing combination of high inequality and high poverty owes much to its failure to industrialize, with many countries depending upon mineral rents from their resource sector that are often captured by those at the top, or on an agricultural and urban informal sector that is trapped in activities with very low levels of productivity and low incomes. Voters are really enthusiastic about democratic rule, but they find it very difficult to compel governments to change the trajectory of growth in the direction of socially inclusive developmental outcomes. I want to identify.
Dr. Bangura also called for local governance process to be more open to enhance transparency and accountability at the local level.
I want to suggest that giving the vote to individual party members at the constituency level, as happens in mature democracies, will greatly improve the quality of internal democracy in parties and will go a long way in making citizens or voters own those parties. It will check the hegemony of party leaders, ensure a level playing field for all candidates, make it more costly to bribe voters, and force incumbents to deliver on promises. The point I'm trying to make is very simple. The basic hallmark of democracy, one person, one vote, should not be restricted to national.
Meanwhile, the executive director of IDEG, Dr. Amano Lartey, has lashed out at political parties for their inability to bring about the transformational development. Now, he says political parties in Ghana have become more election-oriented and have failed to turn the economic fortunes of Ghana around.
I always believe that parties can do a lot more to bridge the gap. We can turn our parties, maybe move them a little from elections to thinking seriously about how they want to solve our development problems, so that Ghana would not just become a middle-income country, but a middle-income country that is inclusive, where there is good education, good health, welfare, housing. You feel good to be Ghanaian. Your Ghanaian dream is in your country, you get the best of everything. And those working for it are political parties, are civil servants, okay? Our private business sectors and the community. We're all paying our taxes to do more. Imagine what is happening, the by-election today. You know, it's been difficult to get any of the major party people we wanted here because they are all at the by-elections. Now, this by-elections is not so significant. It will not change the fortunes of the ruling party, nor would it change that of the opposition party. But they went there. We couldn't find it. Everybody we got was there for the by-election. Imagine if there had been a situation where our parties had some very serious problems to solve, policies to deliver and results to achieve so that they can quickly go to the electorate and say, hey, this is what I gave you. But
now imagine being a judge or a magistrate with pending cases to be heard, yet upon arrival at the courts, you are met with a completely locked structure. Now, that was exactly what happened at the Wa District Court on Tuesday when magistrates and the court officials got to the courtroom only to see workers on site tiling the veranda of the facility. Now, the building, which was given out to the Wa District Court by the Upper West Regional Coordinating Council, had also allegedly been reallocated to the Savannah Accelerated Development Authority to be used as an office space. Now, the decision is said to have angered the magistrates in the region, a situation that has seen them threaten to suspend all court sittings in the region. Today, if the Regional Coordinating Council refuses to revert the office to them, Said Abdul Shakar is an assistant state attorney. He spoke to Joy News about their concerns.
I just rudely told this afternoon when the district court went to sit, and then workmen were all over the place. They stopped them they locked up the place so the court couldn't sit, and the registrar came and informed us that they have information that the place have been reallocated to Sada by the Regional Coordinating Council, leaving the district court with no court premises to sit on. So today the court had to sit from the magistrate's office. That was the situation. So there were so many people outside of the administrative chambers waiting for their turn to also seek justice. So it was such a sorry sight that the High Court, supervising High Court judge, myself and the registrar immediately went to the regional minister. We couldn't meet him, but we met his deputy, and the deputy gave us assurance that they were going to do something about it. Misdemeanors and what I say, minor offenses that the courts sit over, and there are so much in the system. There are so many cases in the system that if the court were to shut down, it will be serious, because the High Court can simply not. Today you should have been at the High Court to see the congestion. So some of us were forced to even adjourn our cases because there were so many judges in the court. The court was packed to capacity, and the district court was also packed to capacity. It follows that if the district court is not sitting, we all have only the High Court.
Now, let's find out if the magistrates indeed boycotted proceedings today. Rafiq Salam, our correspondent in Wa, joins us over the telephone lines with more. So, Rafiq, what was the situation this morning? Did they indeed carry out the threat? Did they boycott proceedings?
No, they didn't. This morning, we had hearings at the Wa High Court and also at the Wa District Court. So both judges were there, and they heard cases this morning. It followed an intervention from the Upper West Regional Minister, who was out of town when the incident happened. And so today he's in town, and he's been able to solve the issue. And so he has directed that those who are working, who are doing the renovation at the courtroom or whatever, should stop. And then so they have stopped, and then and they are still trying to wade into the issue so that they will be able to get Sada a new office, so that the Wa District Court could use that premises. Okay,
so what's going to happen now is that Sada is going to be moved to another office premise while the court maintains this particular facility.
Yeah, the information I'm getting now is that there's an office close by, which is for GSOP, the Ghana Social Opportunities office, and there are empty offices. So the information that I'm getting from there is that they are likely to move Sada to that particular structure while the court takes on this particular building. What is happening is that what the Wa District or the Wa Municipal Assembly, they are supposed to build or construct a courtroom for the Wa District or the magistrate, which they haven't done. And so they have also come into the issue, pleading with the RCC, so that the RCC could do this for them, so that they will have time to get another one for them. But what is currently happening is that they are talking about this structure. That's the new court complex that they are supposed to build for the region. And for 10 years, they have not been able to complete that particular structure. So actually, where the High Court is sitting, the information that I have is that it's supposed to be for the Wa District Court. And because they have not been able to finish the the High Court complex. That's why the Waterloo Court is sitting on the borrowed premises.
Many thanks for that update, Rafiq Salam. And Rafiq Salam indeed is our Upper West Regional Correspondent. You're still watching News Today here on Joy News Multi TV. We are taking a break. We'll be back shortly with some more news. Don't go away. Thanks for staying with us here on News Today. We can do some more stories now. And effective January 2016, all official vehicles to be purchased by the Ministry of Environment will be that of Kantanka Automobile, an indigenous manufacturing company. Now, according to the Minister, Mahama Yarga, the move is part of government's agenda to promote made in Ghana goods. Hano Dame is with the Minister on the tour and joins me on phone now with much more. Hannah, so if you can hear me, what more has the Minister been saying?
You know, Chachani, one thing that he really wanted to see was the manufacturing of the parts that are used for production. Currently, about 150 of these parts used for all the vehicles are imported. Even the engine is imported. And so the minister was saying that he really wished that local companies will also begin to manufacture some of these parts. Let's say the cable manufacturers will begin to manufacture cables that will be that will meet international standards that can be used. He also said he wished rubber from the Western region, for instance, can be used for the tires and the bumper as well. And so all of this, he believes that will support the local industry, and gradually markets will be extended to international markets. He said he will push very well for tax incentives for the Kantanka plant so that it will enable them purchase more parts for production. You know, for now, because they are importing all their parts, the tax is so much, and so he said he will push for it in Parliament. The minister also said that he will put in a memo in January for all of his ministers and their officers, the DCs, all the institutions, if possible, they should begin to consider using Kantanka vehicles instead of importing other forms of vehicles in the country. So he's on a course because his ministry is this particular plant is directly under his ministry. He's on course to ensure that he pushes for more production and sale of the Kantanka vehicles. One thing that I also found out from the CEO of Kantanka, who is Kojo Safu Jr., he said they were not too happy that they haven't received so much support from government, financially and otherwise. And what they really want is the tax incentive. So if the minister has said that, they are hoping and waiting that his promise will come true so that at least they can produce more cars. Interestingly, the first fleet of cars will move into town on the 15th of January. About 75 people have already ordered, much of whom comes from the Zimbabwean ambassador, and they have ordered a lot of these cars, which we'll see on the streets of Accra and other parts of the country on the 15th of January.
Right, many thanks for that particular update, and that was my colleague Hannah Odame bringing us a lot more on that particular one. And indeed, I would love to own one of those. I'm sure you do too as well. But away from that, and pressure is mounting on the Chief Executive Officer of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital as nurses and midwives have joined agitations for his dismissal. Now, this comes as the senior staff earlier passed the vote of no confidence in Mr. Gilbert Barker for poorly managing the nation's biggest referral hospital. Now, the nurses and midwives have written a letter to the Health Ministry and copied the presidency demanding the dismissal of the Kolebu Chief Executive Officer. Joining me now in studio to help us understand what the issues are now is my colleague Kwabna Mpechum. He's live here in the studio now. So Kwabna, tell us what reasons these nurses and midwives give for calling for the dismissal of the CEO.
Yes, they have outlined some issues they believe are not going well at the hospital. First of all, they are saying they lack logistics. Sometimes they have to risk their lives. Gloves and others are not there, and so the needed protection required to take care of patients are not there, and they risk their lives in doing their job. They're also heavily understaffed due to two things. A lot of the staff are resigning, and also the hospital is seconding some of their staff to other teaching hospitals, and this is bringing a lot of pressure on the few staff that are there. And the nurses are also saying they are in the health sector, but when they are sick, they need to pay their own medical bills, they need to pay their own medicines. And this is something they cannot keep doing because it is a stress on them financially. And then there is the intimidation. On top of all that, they say there is intimidation from the management. Whenever they complain of anything, whenever they express divergent views, they come heavily on them. That is, the management come heavily on those people, threaten them with sanctions and all that to keep them quiet. And according to the nurses, with all this going on, they are not able to have that kind of mind, a peace of mind, to be able to execute their duties as health professionals very well.
So they are calling on governments. They are calling on the president to actually dismiss the CEO. What else are they asking for?
Yes, they are actually calling on the government to bring in the things that they are lacking, the logistics and the understaffing issues. But they are actually demanding, among others, a change in the leadership of the management of Korle Bu. Okay, so they are not asking for a change in management. They want the leadership of the management in Korle Bu. And they've made references to the CEO, Mr. Dr. Bakel, that he should go. And they believe this is imperative to solving the issues at Korle Bu. And until he goes, the hospital will risk collapsing.
Right. Yeah. Many thanks for that update. That was my colleague Kwabna Ampechum bringing us an update on that situation. My colleague Francis Abana has also been speaking to some of the nurses.
As we speak, tension is brewing at the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital as we speak. The workers here are asking in clear terms that the Chief Executive Officer of Korle Bu, Gilbert Bakel, leaves office because of poor management of the facility. We can speak to the President of the Korle Bu Senior Staff Association and the person of Charles of Epam. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, sir.
And thanks for speaking to us. The first time we spoke to you, you raised similar concerns. Now we're learning that the nurses have also added their voice and their backing the calls for the Chief Executive to go. Why has this call become necessary?
Thank you very much. And first of all, let me take this opportunity to say hello to all your cherished viewers. I'm not surprised. And for once, Ghanaians should start listening to the voice of the people. We, the Senior Staff Association, we met. And we have a membership that cut across the entire hospital. Now, there is that 89% of our members said that, look, the Chief Executive is not performing. Almost 90% say he should resign. The issue is that if he doesn't resign, then the hospital will go down, he will collapse. Now, take note, take cognizance of the normal. Now, if you have an institution and then 90% of them say that you should resign, I think this is a fair representative that you are not performing.
You say the hospital is collapsing. Where's the evidence?
The evidence is there. The evidence is everywhere. Lack of consumables to work with. Lack of basic consumables to work with. It will amaze you to know that even soap to wash your hands are not available. So how do you wash your hand and do surgery?
You're still watching News Today here on Joy News Multi TV. We are taking a break. When we come back, we'll bring you a lot more stories. So time now for business. Here is Emmanuel Lartey with the very latest. Hi, Ima.
Hi, Tuncheni.
Great. So you were telling me that this afternoon you're going to bring us much more about what the president has been saying.
Exactly. And you know what? The president seems to be blowing his own trumpet, as it were. And you would agree with me that some experts have either criticized him while others have also, well...
Indeed. A lot of people have been expressing a lot of thoughts about what he's been saying this whole
and
time.
basically it's about talking about revamping manufacturing industries in Ghana, as it were, to actually boost exports for the country.
Interesting. I'm looking forward to the details.
Highlighting. Exactly. All right, so this is Joy Business. Government has initiated steps to revamp the operations of the Kumasi Shoe Factory. President Mahama has announced the factory would, from next year, produce 100,000 shoes for school children across the country. The president said this while giving an account of his government's achievements this year, adding government will continue to support local industries to boost the country's exports.
As a people, we must make a conscious effort to eat what we grow and add value to our primary raw materials. This will support a stable economy and job creation. This is State of the Nation Address 2015. And so we're consolidating our homegrown policy. We met in Senchi and we came to a consensus and came up with a Senchi document. And a lot of people think Senchi has been abandoned, but Senchi was put into the IMF program. So most of the items we're dealing with under the extended credit facility of the IMF are from the Senchi consensus. We provided support to local firms in rice production, poultry, pharmaceuticals, shea butter, and other industries. I went and visited the pharmaceutical factories. They've expanded their production, and so a lot of the antiretrovirals that we're using for HIV treatment are produced locally now. We're exporting Panadol, we're exporting antibiotics to our neighboring countries, to Liberia, Sierra Leone, to Burkina Faso. We revamped the Kumasi shoe factory, and I visited it and I commissioned it, and it's employing nearly 200 young people. They're producing the boots for our armed forces, and they're also producing shoes and sandals. The sandals that I distributed, which you saw me putting on Collins Agbo, the 10,000 were produced by at the Kumasi shoe factory. And 2016, they're going to produce 100,000 sandals for Ghanaian school children.
Moving on, a principal lecturer and an economist at GIMPA, Dr. Samuel Ninoy Ashon, warns of difficult times for businesses next year. He says 2016 will see massive cuts in credit to the private sector as financial institutions find it profitable and less risky lending to government at the expertise of the private firms. Speaking to Joy Business on the sidelines of the second symposium to review the 2016 budget at GIMPA, he says the trend calls for innovative measures for businesses to survive come next year.
I'm not pretending difficult times. The budget itself is tight. Now, remember that the government is coming from a deficit of 7.3% projected for this year to about 5.8% next year. Inflation is supposed to come down drastically from at the end of December about 17.3%. That's my projection for end year to about 10.78% or so next year. That's a huge, almost 9 percentage points difference in the year. That's drastic. And of course, it means there'll be a lot of tightening. If you look at the policy rate for the Bank of Ghana, now if they want the interest rate to come down, they want to cut the credit through what? Interest rate adjustments. So the policy rate is unlikely to come down as we speak. If that happens, the policy rate is a cost of borrowing to banks. So the cost of borrowing is not coming down. Obviously, they won't bring their lending rates down because the lending rate will be depend on the cost. Now, government still is programmed to borrow from the domestic market, even though the impact, the volume in terms of GDP ratio is supposed to be declining over the trend, but still there will be a major player. If they do that to the T-bills, you saw what I presented. There's an implicit margin between the lending rate and the T-bill. So the T-bill rate keeps remaining high. The banks cannot come down because the T-bill is a free, risk-free investment for banks. Why should they go and lend to somebody like me who is risky, or to you, or to some poor farmer? They rather go for government paper, which is what? No risk.
Well, so earlier on, we heard the governor of the Bank of Ghana saying that he has plans of increasing the policy rates come next year as a measure to help stabilize the Ghana cedi in the medium term. Now to some maritime business news. The Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, GPHA, says Ghana is losing significant revenue due to continued drop in transit trade between the country and its West African neighbors. Officials attribute this to, among others, the introduction of axle load regulation, which has seen shippers from the Sahel region boycott Ghana's ports over high costs. In Shrai FM's Oheming Teria has more.
Figures from the authority indicate Ghana lost about half of cargo trade with Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger every year. Shippers from the Sahel region have 7 port alternatives to Ghana. They include Abidjan, Dakar, Conakry, Cotonou, Lagos and Nouakchott. Marketing and Public Relations Manager at GPHA, Paul Asari Ansa, says Ghana paid the price in the quest to maintain the integrity of her corridors. He spoke to Joy News on the sidelines of Police Regional Commanders Forum on Transit Trade, organized in Kumasi by the Shippers Authority in collaboration with the Borderless Alliance.
The cost of transporting a ton of cargo, for example, between Ghana and Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso, shot up significantly. So the owners of the cargo decided to shift their cargoes to the other corridors. Ghanaian trucks are very robust, and they could carry as much as 90 tons of cargo, 100 tons of cargo, without any worry of being broken down on the corridors. So, in spite of the distance, the importers and exporters in those countries loved the Ghanaian corridor because of our trucks. So once that competitive edge was no longer there, in the sense that they couldn't take as much as they were taking, they decided to shift the cargoes to the other corridors. So we lost more than, we came down from about 900 to 1 million tons to just about 500,000 tons in a year. But of course, it's a price we had to pay for our determination to protect the integrity of our corridors.
Chess reviewed trade between Ghana and Mali, for instance, has declined from 416,000 tons in 2003 to about 23,000 tons in 2014. The situation is not different with Niger and Burkina Faso, but recent talks between GPHA and its Burkinabe counterpart seems to yielding positive results, as the trend appears to be picking up slowly. Mr. Sayansa foresees more dire consequences for Ghana as some West African countries drag their feet in the implementation of ASILOAD regulations.
There is dragging their feet in implementation, and we hope that ECOWAS will bring pressure to bear on them to implement the policy as well, so that we have a level playing field to organize the transition.
Also, so that maritime news update ends this afternoon's package of the business segment on Joy News Today. With me, Emmanuel Abuaji. We have joined Joy Business later tonight for more business news updates. Good afternoon.
So time now for some sports updates. Here's Benedict also. Hi, Benedict.
Hi, Chencheni. Jose Mourinho is in the news. But before we talk about that, we've got some local business to deal with, and we'll go straight away. And we'll start with Accra Heart of Oak, and former player of the team, Mahatma Otu, has called on current managers of the club to involve the old management members in the day-to-day running of the club. Now, Hearts in the last Premier League season nearly went on relegation. Things have not been smooth for them for the last 2 years. And Mahatma, who played Hearts before leaving for Norwegian side Sogndal, believes collaboration between the new and old executives will restore the Phobian glory.
Yeah, I think it's true. I follow the league. I follow the progress of Hearts of Oak, and it hasn't been going so well. They were almost relegated in last season, and there are petty problems in the team as at now. But the only thing I can say is they have to. The current management of the team have to involve their predecessors, those who were there, who have run the team before. They have to involve them in the day-to-day activities of running the club, because they have been there. They have faced such problems before, and they knew how they came out of it. So I think they are the best people. They have to bring them together, unite them, and I think House of Oak will go back to glory days.
That was former Accra Heart of Oak player Mahatma Otu speaking to Joy Sports. Now, Tom Venom, the founder of Ghana football-based academy Right to Dream, has been named the new chairman of Norgeland after leading a group of investors to complete a takeover of the Danish club. Tom Venom led the Pathways group, where he is a director, to buy the 90% stake of Norgeland from Alan K. Pedersen to become the new owners in a move which will be made official on January 1, 2016.
Well, I think you know that there's a lot of a lot of problems when young players go to Europe in terms of how the clubs receive them and how they fit in. We looked at this for a long time, and we decided that unless we bought the club, we wouldn't be able to guarantee the right progress for our players. And at the same time, there's a very good academy here, and we wanted to be able to develop players in Europe according to the Right to Dream model. Apart from Right to Dream, I think I hope it could be a great opportunity for the wider Ghana football community, because the club we've bought has a hotel, and we hope that we'll be able to host some of the national teams and support in the development of the wider Ghana football objectives.
Let's do some boxing. An undefeated Ghanaian boxer, Brima Kamoko, popularly known as Bukom Banku, has vowed to stop Haiti Powers in round 5 of their rematch dubbed Repeat or Revenge in Kumasi on December 26. Now, last week, Banku pulled out of the rematch claiming he was injured, but in less than 24 hours, he reversed that decision with a 50,000 Ghana cedis purse, a Range Rover, and a holiday for 2 to Johannesburg at stake. Banku, a boxer who delivers on his boast, has vowed to stop Powers.
Because Haiti Powers is a good boxer. I'm also a good boxer, but I'll beat Haiti Powers in the session in Sibiru. I'm training hard. If you watch my body, you know that I'm slim. Yeah.
Powers has said this is the time for revenge. Are we going to see that, or are you stopping
it? It's not revenge, it's a repeat. Say, let me see. Repeat. Powers cannot fit me. Powers, he don't know boxing. He don't get experience to fight in the ringside. You can't beat Tamale boy. I'm from Tamale Sisala. All the Tamale, they support me in this fight because Powers say they go Aigbe. What Tamale people, they wake up in this fight. Tamale will use SB to killing Powers because he said they go Aigbe. Aigbe is my fans. It's my people, and they like it. But Tamale people is my region. And my motherland is Okuba.
That will be it for sports. My name is Benedict Owusu. Enjoy the rest of the program.
So it's time now for entertainment, and joining me now in studio is Gladys Osero of our entertainment desk. Hi, Gladys.
Hi, Kwabena.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
You're looking fantastic anyway.
You're looking fabulous.
So, what do you have in entertainment today?
Yes, you know Osibisa Band.
Yeah.
Were you born when the band was playing? Don't worry about that one. That's okay.
I've heard them play a number of times. Really.
Which of the songs do you know?
Which of them?
Their songs you know.
Almost. Okay, I know. At least I know about 5 songs.
I said which of them. I did not ask how many, but that's okay.
Sunshine Day is. Sunshine Day.
Yeah, Fire Burn You.
Fire.
We are going heaven. Okay, so you know one of the founding members, Teddy Osei, is turning 80 years, and guess what? We asked him what is his secret, and of course, where he thinks that current music could be heading to, because you know Osibisa at 77, they had done a lot already, and you were not born. That's okay. But of course, he's been telling us where he thinks our music could be heading to, but of course, how far he also has come. Right.
Yeah. To me, my type of music started in Ghana, Kumasi, and I enjoyed Kwamensa, Kakieku, and in others, and that's why I get the feeling, the calling that I got to do something about music.
I see.
And I came up with the Commerce Dance Band in 1960. Okay. We did our first recording was what is it? Ubejamio Jack Mabedu, and so on, and Pete, Senua, and from then on, I decided to go abroad to see what I can find there. So I went to England.
So Teddy Osei is celebrating his 80th birthday at the Plus 233 Jazz Club Pub, and he is inviting all of you to join him there, celebrate his 80th birthday, where there will be loads of music and relaxation and jazz. You can go in there and enjoy 8 p.m. sharp on the 17th of December 2015. All right, let's also talk about the twerkings in town these days. Okay, so there is a carnival group from Nigeria who is kind of grazing occasions in Ghana and, you know, doing the bump twerks for us to enjoy. I am so kind and generous. Here you are.
Oh, yeah, shake body.
I am so sure you're wondering, okay, so what about the dance? Okay, Kwabena, you know about the dance?
The twerk?
Yes.
Oh, gee, I have a fair idea.
It actually happened at the launch of the Casapreco bottling plant.
Oh.
Okay,
was
and
the president not there?
He was there, and the focus, in fact, the concentration, the dance and the twerks and everything was directed at the stage where the president sat.
Interesting. Wow. I wish I were president. But thank you very much for entertainment, and I was glad to share with you bringing us entertainment right here on News Today. So that's it for News Today. There's more news on myjoyonline.com. My name is Kwabena Chenche Henebwati. Have a good afternoon.